Good evening, one and all. It's my pleasure to welcome you all to World Human Sciences and Management Conference 2021 and 22. This is Rudranarayan Das, Executive Director, Center for ADIVASI Research and Development. We are proud to announce that this conference is conducted along with Indian Institute of Management, Sambalpur, Central University of Odisha, Koraput, and Ravenshaw University, Cuttack. I welcome our speaker for today, Dr. Satya Sundar Sethy, and participants across the globe who are watching us in maximally in Facebook and YouTube live, and who are few guest people are joining us in Zoom. The broader theme of this conference is agnotological context, disciplinary practices of social science and policy trends. On behalf of Center for ADIVASI Research and Development, I extend my profound gratitude to our patrons, Professor Dr. Sanjay Kumar Naik, Vice Chancellor, Ravenshaw University, Professor Mahadev Joyswar, Director, Indian Institute of Management, and Professor Sarath Kumar Palita, Vice Chancellor, Central University of Odisha. The convener of this largest virtual conference are eminent Indian historian, Professor Chandi Prasad Nanda, and eminent policy activist, writer, and philanthropist, Mr. Charulata Panigrahi. The main outcome of this conference is to come up with national and international framework for the education system in future, and crux of this conference will be the use of digital technology such as artificial intelligence, augmented reality, and virtual reality that is being increasingly adopted after the outbreak of COVID pandemic. We hope this conference would help students, faculties, researchers, and all to expand their mental horizon and help the education system in future. Sir and ladies and gentlemen, our center is a leading research-oriented institution promoting ethnographic, empirical, and evidence-based research for engaging and addressing the challenges that 21st century globe is facing today. The prime agenda of this institution is to come up with potential policy solutions for societal change while believing in the idea of 3D, that is called debate, dialogue, and discussion, and E3 stand for expertise, experiencing in education. This institution focuses on marginalized communities and work for their livelihood to protect their nature, culture, language, and identity in particular period. The age of modernity has witnessed that change is the only constant phenomena for the societal purpose to enhance the knowledge. Our information work for them is methodical and avoids paradoxically framework which is neglected so many countries and centuries from theory to become practice. Our center sincerely believes in the concept of social marketing, which is seriously looking for non-profit marketing and builds new social entrepreneurship for check and balance mechanism to glorify generations to come. Our center come to serve with a holistic approach to critical thinking in education to fill the gaps and to plan accordingly for the voiceless communities for beneficiaries, direct and self-reflecting global south societies. Dear friends, this evening is a very mesmerizing and wonderful evening with our guest speaker, Professor Satya Sundar Sethy. Dr. Sethy is an associate professor of philosophy at the Department of Humanities and Social Science in Indian Institute of Technology, Madras, Chennai, India. He has published several papers in international and national journals, contributed book chapters to the edited book. He is credited with an edited book, Contemporary Ethical Issues in Engineering in 2015, publishing by IGI Global, Pennsylvania, United States. His current research interests include philosophy of language, analytic philosophy, professional ethics, Indian philosophy, logic, and information and communication technologies in education. Professor Sethy will deliver his talk on inclusive education and quality assurance in higher education, a roadmap for India. So without wasting much time, I would like to invite our distinguished guest, Professor Sethy, to initiate his talk. Over to you, Professor Sethy. Yes, please.
Good evening, all. So thanks for an introduction. I was expecting around 100 plus participants, but including me, it is only 10. So nevertheless, I think
So we're live in Facebook and YouTube. So we are live, and maximum our audiences are in Facebook and YouTube.
Okay. So now at the outset, I thank you for this introduction, and also Dr. Bikram for inviting for this talk, as well as the host of this talk. So how shall we proceed? Is there any guidance? 40 minutes, something, I'll give a talk, then we proceed. What's the plan? Can you just brief me?
So the plan is you have to be, if you have some presentations or PPT, you have to be there, or you can talk 45 minutes approximately, then we can go for a question and answer session.
Okay, fine.
Sir, if possible, we can speak more than 45 minutes as or less 60 minutes, then we will probably jump to the question and answer session as well at the end of the session. Thank you.
Okay. That's all right. So now, therefore, as Dr. Bikram told me that I'll go with that plan, but let's see how many of the listeners are going to get benefit out of it. So people call me Satya Sundar Seth, not Sethy, just a minor correction. So with this, let me present the today topic, that is inclusive education and quality assurance in higher education, a roadmap.
Yes, it's visible, sir.
Just a second. Yes. So, the objectives of today's seminar talk are the following. So since I have titled consciously and intently by speaking to Dr. Bikram that who are the target audience, so what are the objectives that you would like me to cover with regard to higher education. After speaking for quite 20 minutes plus, so I decided that I'll be discussing something about inclusive education, and that will be relevant for all the audience, irrespective of the education that they have, whether humanities stream or social science, basic science or applied sciences. Irrespective of the stream, this should be helpful to all of them. So the first and foremost objective today I'm going to discuss about what are the merits that we have if we offer the inclusive education in the higher education setup. The second objective together we are going to achieve is that significance of quality assurance in the higher education setting. And the third one that I'll be discussing the relationship between academic freedom and the assurance of quality. Like whether it's a teacher or a student, everybody talks about academic freedom, and everyone wants to avail the academic freedom in the higher education institution. I'll speak about that, and we'll see that if teachers and students will avail the academic freedom, would there be a possibility to assure the quality education in the higher education setup. The next objective, of course, I'll touch upon, but not in detail, that we'll be discussing the importance of having the formative assessment practices for the students' subject content learning, and what are the ways the faculty members and the institution can help the students to maintain a standard and gain certain skill, knowledge, and intelligence to be recruited after they pass out from a particular university of taking their degree. The last, I'll be offering certain suggestions for debate, considerations, and implementation, if possible, in the higher education setup. This is just for all of you to think about it and to reflect on it. So now let us fix the context. Before we start discussing anything, so it is necessary for us to fix the content. What is the context? The context is about India. It's about higher education institutions across India. Now, if we talk about higher education system, mostly we include teachers, those teach to the students, those involved in doing research. Then of course, without students, teachers do not have any meaning. Similarly, students would not be treated as a student if there is no relation with the teachers with regard to teaching learning method, so and so forth. Now, in addition to that, we will have staff that we find in these higher education institutions. Then, of course, certain infrastructure, whether you say laboratory test unit, certain infrastructure, or a faculty room, or a student's laboratory, or a student's say room where students can sit for some time, or students' library. These are the infrastructure mostly. Then you can go on adding to that existing infrastructure based on your experience, knowledge, and based on your observations to the various educational institutions. Then, of course, we have administrators, both academic administrator as well as administrator per se. So now this is all about higher education system. So I sum up saying that what is a higher education system? It consists of teachers, students, staff, infrastructure, and administrator. Now, who are the students mostly? Students are those that have some sort of anxiety to learn something. What are the things they wanted to learn? Maybe they wanted to learn something to do with phenomenal world, something to do with abstract world. When I talk about phenomenal world, I refer to the fact that students go to the laboratory and learn something. Students perceive some things and learn something. It is something to do with the empirical world, that you go to a field and do the field work and you learn, you listen to a lecture and you learn, and you read a book in a library and you learn, you speak to your colleagues, friends over a cup of coffee, then discuss a debate on an issue and you learn. It's basically sense observation data for the experimental research. Over here, I can talk about the basic science, mostly physics, chemistry, so on. So maybe applied science like management, engineering, medical science. Now, moving on to this abstract world, there I would say that students are interested to know something above and beyond the phenomenal world. That's called the abstract world. Take an example, the number 1, 2, 3, 4. The number 2 doesn't have any meaning on its own, unless you relate to, say, 2 mobile devices, 2 dot pen, 2 notebook, or 2 trees, or 2 tables, so on and so forth. So therefore, the number 2 itself is an abstract concept. Similarly, in philosophy also you find some of the concepts, those are related to the metaphysical area. It's called metaphysical concepts. These are also treated as an abstract concept. So students, mostly we believe they enter into the higher education system, keeping in mind to learn something to do with the phenomenal world as well as the abstract world. So therefore, I would say higher education teachers should not teach to the students just from the textbook what is already written. Rather, they should ignite the passion in the students' mind so that they can read on their own, they can self-assess what they are reading, they can self-assess what they are hearing, and therefore they can always search for the truth. So with this, I would say that higher education teachers should act as a facilitator in addition to that as a course instructor. Now, if you read the literature that is published in various reputed journals, it says that course instructors are those mostly that deliver the lecture based on the textbook which is already written. And the facilitators are those can help the students, motivate the students, encourage the students to read on their own, to self-assess what they read, so on and so forth. So therefore, I would say higher education teachers should not confine themselves as a course instructor. Rather, they should move one step ahead, saying that they are also the facilitator, and as a result, they can help in producing the bright students for this nation's progress and growth. Now, with this, I will discuss what shall we mean by the expression inclusive education. Now, to me, inclusive education includes the students' intellectual growth, emotional growth, and personal growth. Let me analyze. Intellectual growth means the creative mind that they possess. They can develop an ability to question what they read, what they listen, so that they can think something new. They can look for a different perspective to examine a fact. That's called the intellectual growth. you have the inner ability to grow and think and therefore create something new which is not there in the past. And the emotional growth mostly look at a social problem or look at a research problem from various perspectives. And that's called the emotional growth. You are not happy with only one perspective. So you know that there are problems that can be resolved from various perspectives. Emotional growth means you will be looking at from various perspectives. And the third one is called personal growth. You will be considered as a civilized individual. You'll be considered as a well-behaved person. You'll be considered as a well-cultured individual. And these are the personal growth, and that education can give you. So therefore, inclusive education is about your personal growth, your emotional growth, and of course, your intellectual growth. So if students would have this three varieties of growth, then perhaps we would say that as a teacher or as a teacher of an institution, we offer the inclusive education to the students. Now, what is the aim and objective to offer this inclusive education? I would say the basic, the primary, and the principal aim is to make the students mature. The reason behind that, they need to understand the things from different perspectives. They should be able to handle the things from different perspectives. And at the end, if situation arises, they can be able to resolve the problems with their best skills and intelligence. So therefore, inclusive education plays a very, very vital role to offer the quality education in the higher education system. Now, those have a free time, or those are part of this education department or other departments. Those have studied the Radhakrishna Commission report, or say the Kothari Commission report, the YESPAL committee report, or the latest one, the National Education Policy 2020. In all these documents, you'll find that it is clearly mentioned that if the nation will grow, then there must be a quality education that we need to return in the higher education sector. And the quality education can be ascertained if we can have the inclusive education. Inclusive education, and therefore it helps the students to develop holistically. When I talk about the term holistic, it means students can develop certain skill, knowledge, intelligence, and creative mind, and other they can discover many more things, they can innovate new things, they can challenge the existing thing so that the new things will come that will benefit the human being as such and society at large. So now the question arises that does inclusive education possible without the academic freedom that students and teachers are supposed to avail in the higher education system? Let me put another way. Without academic freedom, would there be a possibility to say that inclusive education possible in the higher education institutions? As for the research studies go, as per my opinion, it is not possible to offer inclusive education and quality education to the students if academic freedom is not given to the students on the one hand and teachers on the other hand. Now, there are many debates, many discussions about it. And recently, I published a paper with regard to this academic freedom in the Indian higher education setting. Those have a leisure time or free time, or those have a desire to read it and understand my ideas and arguments, you may read that. And if you have any comments, you send to me. But without entering into this, the concept of academic freedom in detail, in an exhaustive way, I would say that the basic requirement for a teacher to stay happily, to do his or her work perfectly and professionally, he or she should avail the freedom. So that this freedom is called academic freedom. Here I must tell you that whenever we are talking about the academic freedom, this freedom is given to only the academicians, both teachers and researchers and the students within this campus. It is not equated with the civil freedom. So therefore, saying that Jindabad, Murdabad in the campus, so on and so forth, that has nothing to do with the academic freedom, and one should not aspire for it. Academic freedom necessarily tells you that what are the way you should get the freedom with reference to your academic progress, growth, and so on and so forth. So therefore, one freedom that I'm going to discuss that every teacher want to avail it while working in this higher education institution, that's called freedom to teach. When we talk about freedom to teach, it is necessary that we are talking about a course, and that is a part of the program. So now the faculty member who has earned certain expertise in certain area, he or she should be given the course to teach in that field, not to be forced to teach some other things. If that is the case, then he or she will develop some interest to read many more things and update the students in the classroom. So therefore, based on the expertise, a faculty member should teach his or her, say, expertise subject to the students. Now, he or she, as a faculty member, should be able to assess the students' performance and give the correct feedback. There are 5 types of feedback, and the teacher must know what are the 5 types of feedback and which feedback would be appropriate for the students, so that students would be able to read the feedback and work on it, so that students can able to see the progress in his or her career. Now, when assessing the student's performance, there is every possibility that the teacher himself or herself would be knowing if there is anything wrong with the pedagogical delivery or instructional design. So there is a chance for a teacher to also improve on his or her teaching in the classroom scenario. So therefore, a teacher should get the freedom. A teacher should not be imposed, saying that you must adopt this instructional design to deliver a course. This should not be the practice. Rather, all the teachers should get the freedom, academic freedom, to deal with the courses. Now, design the new course curriculum. Since the faculty member has certain expertise, knowledge in certain subject, he or she should be allowed, rather encouraged, to design the new curriculum that have relevance, that all these courses that he or she is going to develop, all these courses have relevance for the students, for the society, for the institution, so and so. So therefore, here I have mentioned that design the new course curriculum based on their expertise, skills, and they need to consider the social demands and, of course, the social needs. Social needs and social demands is mostly related to the market and so on. So that after completion of the program, students will be able to get certain jobs. Now, further, it is the duty of the teacher not to say involve in the grade inflation. Grade inflation means students, based on their performance knowledge, should get the mark. They should not get the mark higher or lower based on their gender, religion, say economic conditions, so on and so forth. Rather, here is the role of a teacher who can able to assess the student's performance and give exactly what he or she possesses in that given moment. If there is a grade inflation, a teacher can do that in the mark sheet or the grade sheet. Perhaps he or she will not be able to do things professionally, and he or she is not going to meet the societal expectation. So therefore, academic freedom, once we get the freedom, we have certain limitations, and within the limitations, we need to exercise our freedom. So freedom should not be understood differently and the way we want to understand. Rather, it should confine to academic purpose only. Now, moving on to the students. Now, in most of this higher education institution in India, you'll find that students will have slogan that we want freedom. Of course, they want freedom, but they should be conveyed that what freedom means in the academic institutions. What freedom they are talking about, perhaps they do not know exactly what freedom they're supposed to have. Therefore, they are talking many more things. But in reality, whenever we're talking about academic freedom with regard to students' usage, use of that freedom, then here we will say that freedom to learn. Students can go to the authorities, can go to the teacher and say that we need to learn this. They have a freedom. If they do not agree with some of the professors in the classroom, they should feel free to say that, and they should be encouraged to do that. If they are thinking something new, their thought should be encouraged and motivated. So therefore, it's a freedom to learn. So in this case, they would be motivating themselves to have a self-assessment. They would be treating themselves as a self-assessment learners. Self-assessment plays a very vital role. I'll tell you one example. In every day, whenever you are reading many more things, maybe newspapers, maybe books or novels, you're not believing, you're not accepting each and everything as a truth, because you have a reason. You apply your logical reasoning. and examining the fact and verifying the fact, and therefore you find out which information is to be treated as true and which information are not to be treated as true. So similarly, if you develop the self-learning method, perhaps you'll be able to find out the truth on your own, and that would be helping you to grow day by day, and therefore you'll be earning the knowledge and skill that is required for an employment. Now, you'll also develop the creativity in analyzing certain ideas and concepts, because it is not easy to conceive the new idea and concept. It's not an easy task that each and everybody can conceive a new idea or concept. So it is the students, those who have read the concept, those who have listened the arguments, those who have listened carefully the teachers, lecture delivery in the classroom, perhaps they can think of new ideas and new concepts. And it is really an achievement to conceive the new ideas and concepts about the worldly affairs. So students can really aspire for that. That's freedom they should get it within the academic institution. Now they need to also participate in various academic bodies for the decision-making process. For example, students should participate, or the students represented should participate in an academic bodies where the courses are analyzed. Suppose in the first year, what are the courses students supposed to do? In the second year, what are the courses they're supposed to do by linking to the first year courses, so on and so on. How many credits courses they're supposed to do in a particular semester? All the things students represented should represent in the academic bodies. In addition to that, if those are caught in malpractice, so on and so forth, then the punishment and everything, so they should be part of it. So therefore, students are active. Students should active in participating in most of the academic bodies. As a result, they will feel that they are the part of the higher education institution, and they're also part of the decision-making bodies. And therefore, in day by day, they'll be thinking, what are the way the student's body can progress, the students can learn further and further. Because higher education institutions, the learning institutions where students can really explore various types of learning based on their skills, knowledge, and intelligence. Now, the last one, I would say that students can also be encouraged to participate in various administrative bodies. Administrative bodies like hostel management system, they should part of it. They should decide the tender along with this other professors. They should be part of some of the administrative bodies. What are the like festivals should happen? Say what are the ways the department should I would say. So department should offer a new program. They should participate. Further, in a department, what are the administrative issues like library and other things? They should also take part of it. So therefore, to me, students' freedom means students should be allowed to participate both in academic bodies as well as administrative bodies, so that they will feel they are part of this higher education institutions. Now, further, I said that how to ensure there is an inclusive education in the higher education system. I would say there are two ways, and there may be three ways, but as of today, if you read the literature published in different journals, it says that if we offer the interdisciplinary programs and students enroll in it, perhaps they'll be able to develop the creative mind, and as a result, the intellectual growth, personal growth, and emotional growth would be ascertained. So now think of interdisciplinary studies. Like some of the students, those are studying in education department, they can do a course called ethics and education. By doing that, they'll be learning ethics and how it's related to the education sector. See, those who are studying, say, let's say economics or say other applied science subject with management, they can do another course called logic and critical thinking from philosophy subject. These are the examples. You can have your own examples. You can think of doing new courses also. Now, those are from physics department, those are from say mechanical engineering, so on and so forth, or chemical engineering. So they can think of doing a course called philosophy and scientific theories. So therefore, by studying something from a different perspective, they will be able to develop certain creative mind, and that would help them to think something new, that would engage them in a positive way of thinking about the world affairs and contributing something for the societal progress. So therefore, I would say, since students are going to avail the academic freedom in the higher education institution, as a teacher, we should offer many elective courses So therefore, the basket pool of elective courses should be available to the student. So therefore, students can choose the courses that they're supposed to do as an elective course, and therefore they can able to choose their path in which direction they want to see their life. Now, with regard to multidisciplinary studies, here I have given one example. What is a multidisciplinary study? One issue, one problem, one subject, how this subject is related by various disciplinary knowledge, how that subject is treated by various scholars belonging to a different disciplinary knowledge. Take an example, mind and consciousness. The concept of mind and concept of consciousness is a debatable topic in today's times, in a contemporary times. Now you'll find that philosophers are talking about it, cognitive scientists are talking about it, psychologists are talking about it, computer scientists and engineers are talking about it with regard to the hard disk and CPU, central processing unit, so on and so forth. Then of course, neuroscientists, biotechnologists, so on and so forth. An example I'll give you, both from philosophy side perspective and neuroscience perspective. In philosophy, they say that we know consciousness because our sense organs contract with the object and get the information about the object, and therefore we are conscious about that object. Now, some of the philosophers, they say that how do you know that you are conscious of something? The answer they give that you are conscious. You are conscious of the fact that you are now having conscious about an object. So therefore, the first conscious, the meta-conscious, helps you to understand that right now you are conscious of some object. If the first level of consciousness or the meta-consciousness is not there with you, even though you'll be looking to an object, you may not be knowing about that object. There are many times you might have come across that you are looking at the object or you are holding an object, but you do not know about that. You don't have any information about that object. And that's from philosophy perspective, philosophy subject perspective, to understand the notion of consciousness. The cognitive scientist or say a neurologist, they say the notion of consciousness is an important concept for all of us, even though we can able to analyze the thalamus functions in our brain or the frontal cortex of the brain or the cerebral system of the brain, but we cannot exactly tell as of today that which part of the body or which part of the brain that causes the consciousness. But at the same time, we cannot deny the existence of consciousness, because from early morning to the late night, you have a different level of consciousness. And all the level of consciousness are connecting to each other. And therefore, in some cases, you are recollecting some information that happened in the past, and sometimes you cannot be able to recollect. And because of the consciousness, you, me, and other creatures were alive. And if you say that X is dead, what it means, it is the body is there, only the consciousness is not there in that body. And therefore, you'll find that the notion of consciousness is so much interesting, and it is dealt by the computer scientists, philosophers, cognitive scientists, neuroscientists, so on and so forth. If you study from various perspectives, then perhaps you will be able to develop the creative mind. Now, take for example, this computer scientists, they say it's the networking systems. And because of that, we understand which level of consciousness that we have. Now, if you ask an anesthesia specialist, he or she will be telling you that how much dose is required to do an operation for a particular, say, period of time. And after that, they'll put in ICU so that they'll watch the body to retrieve the consciousness. So all the things are to be studied by the student, so that the students will be explore the whole subject from the different discipline, and as a result, he or she can able to develop the creative thinking about this subject and the research problem. Now, further, I would say that if we help the students to grow intellectually, emotionally, and personally, would there be any possibility that we can say that inclusive education has a relation with the quality assurance? I would say yes. If we offer the inclusive education to the students, if we maintain certain standard, underline the word standard, then perhaps they'll be able to get a job once they complete their program in a higher education institution. So therefore, I would say the notion of quality assurance is closely linked to the notion of inclusive education. Now, the expression quality assurance is explained by various scholars differently. So, for example, some of the scholars, they explain the expression quality assurance as an exception. Take an example. Suppose I'll tell me 5 best engineering institution in India. So immediately you named what it means. In the past, there were exceptional students were there and they contributed something for the society. That's one exception. Now, value for money. For example, nursing, then you have hotel management, then you have tourism. These are the value for money. Say 1-year course is a diploma course. Then you have certificate course. You do it, you pay the money, and you get the result. After that, there's an employment structure. So different people have explained the concept of quality assurance differently. But here, in today's topic, I'm going to discuss the notion of quality assurance with regard to fitness for purpose. What it means, if you enroll in a particular program, at the end of the program, you will be knowing whatever the knowledge skills you'll be earning, that will be a fitness for which you have done the course, and the job sector, they'll be looking for this kind of knowledge and skill of a student, those who passed out a particular program. So therefore, I would say quality assurance over here means the fitness for the purpose for which you have studied, or we the teachers have taught you, so and so. So now you may ask the questions, why shall quality be ensured in the higher education sector? I'll say that once we ensure the quality, then people can judge the validity and the reliability of that education. Validity means how many years this quality will be retained. Who are the people can rely on this? So these are the two important features that are related to the notion of quality assurance. Now, further we'll find to meet the societal expectations. Now, if I ask you, tell me the 5 best medical institutions in India, you'll be telling them. Say 5 best universities. And all this 5 best university name or 5 medical institution name or 5 engineering colleges name, you are telling me merely because you know that in the past, students, those who have registered in the program, they passed out, they got their certificate and they got the job. That's the employment. One criteria you have taken. Another criteria, you know that after joining in the job, they have contributed something for the society. So these are the 2 parameters you have taken into consideration, and therefore you said X or Y colleges were good in the past, or X or Y colleges are good at present, so on and so forth. So therefore, quality assurance plays a very, very vital role for the societal progress and the growth. So therefore, once the quality is ensured, the recruiter, those are searching for this a particular level of knowledge, skills, persons, perhaps they will be not getting any misguided. If some students get A grade, they know that only A grade students can able to handle a particular work, and accordingly they will be recruiting only A grade students, not B and C. So therefore, the role of a teacher to assess the students' performance, evaluate them correctly, and as a result, value them, give an award and reward either in the form of score or in the letter grade, so that it would help the recruiter to know what knowledge skills the students possess with regard to a particular program or the course. Now, it also helps the students to make them understand that at which level they are having understanding with a particular program. So therefore, the quality assurance plays a very, very vital role in the higher education setup. So therefore, I have said the last point, that quality education helps society to progress. Society means both teachers, students, anybody, those are living in the society. Bring positive changes in the society. You will be helping the society to change. If today many people do not have any blind beliefs or superstitious beliefs, it's because of the educations. If today everybody knows how to browse informations in the web portal, it is merely because of the knowledge that students or the teachers of the society have learned. So therefore, I would say the quality education really helps the nation's social and economic growth. Now, therefore, some suggestions. As you can read my title, I say that a roadmap for India. Some suggestions that I've thought of after doing research for more than 1 decade, but these are for debate, for you to debate, to discuss, and if possible, in some of the higher education institutions, people can implement it. In some other way, I have mentioned all these suggestions in different of my work. Those are published in Scopus Index. Now, I propose that minimum qualification for higher education teachers should be MPhil. Why it is MPhil? Because the student who has done the MPhil, he or she should be knowing the subject content, at the same time will be knowing how to do a research, so that in future, he or she will be able to read the new research findings and would be able to update the students in the classroom. So therefore, it should be MP or MS in engineering. Those are into this research, not completely, but at least they'll get orientation about this. Now, faculty members should get training. Once they are selected, they should get training how to teach a course. Because most of the faculty members, they're good at in their own subject. They are the best in their own subject, but they do not know how to teach a course. That has not been told to them. That has not, this kind of training they have not received. So therefore, sometimes some of the faculty members, they replicate the way their teachers were teaching in the classroom or their teachers were dealing with the students, so on and so forth. And this kind of replication may not work in future because the time changes, things change. And therefore, it is the necessary requirement for all the teachers to go through the training program so that they will be able to learn the instructional design, pedagogical delivery, assessment, and evaluation strategies. And accordingly, they'll find out that what is the best fit for that course, they'll be doing it. And further, I say that there should be academic freedom in the higher education institution, both from the student side and the teacher side. Then only their mind will be free to think something creative. Now, next suggestions I have proposed over here that along with this UGC NET, SLATE, CSR, all these qualifications, national level qualification, to me, there should be teacher training score. Anybody who wants to join as a teacher should be able to get certain teacher training score. And that score tells that this person knows that how to teach a course, how to evaluate a student's performance, how to give a feedback to the student's performance, so on and so forth. So unless until a person who selected for higher education teacher but did not deserve the required teacher teaching score, he or she should not be given any posting in the higher education institution. That would help the teacher on the one hand to understand the merits of a teacher, to understand the professionalism of a teacher. On the other hand, it will help the institutions, society, and the students. Now, further, I have proposed that there must be a code of ethics that should be formulated by all the teacher association along with the higher education authority, so that all the teachers as a professional, they need to accept it, adopt it while performing their duties in their workplace. And further, I would say that academics should feel proud professionals, because each and everybody cannot possess the knowledge that they have. Each and everybody cannot possess the skills, intelligence that they have with regard to their subject. So therefore, they should feel the proud professional, the way doctors feel that they are proud professionals, engineers feel they are proud professionals. Over here, all the academicians should feel that they are proud professionals. Remember, it is the academician, those who produce the doctors, those who produce the engineers. So therefore, since we produce many professionals, therefore we should also act as a professional in our workplace and therefore in our career. Students shall be promoted to the next level of the semester program based on their performance. That is very, very important. If they are promoted based on their religion, gender, social, empathy, compassion, so on and so forth, then perhaps we are not going to retain the quality education in the higher education system, and therefore it impacts the inclusive education that we're talking about. Now, further, students are encouraged to desist from, to avoid the plagiarism and copyright violation. That is an ethical aspect of academic. All these academics, they should accept it. And if anybody who fails to accept it and fails to understand it and do things the way it is not expected, perhaps then there will be sanction on that person. So therefore, students are to encourage to desist from plagiarism and copyright violation. If there is any questions on these two things, I'm going to explain further. Students are to be given the academic freedom, as I told you, and they should know what is academic freedom. Academic freedom should not be equated with the civil freedom, because academic freedom is given within the campus and for the students and teachers, not to anybody else. But the other freedom, you get it as a citizen of a state. So now I propose the fact that all the students belonging to a particular university or institutions, they can ask to choose either NCC or NSS. While doing NCC, they remain fit, they can contribute for the nations. And those who will be opting for NSS, they should be asked to do some social projects. And there should be credit involved with that. It's not free. It is a compulsory course and it is a compulsory task. Everyone is supposed to do that. And there must be some credit. The institutional authority should think about it. Why is the credit? If it's a credit, student will come forward to do it. Otherwise, they will not do it. So once they will do it, then they will learn the difficulty of a particular society, the difficulty of a certain section of people, so on and so forth. Over here, mostly I have mentioned that students, those are opting for NSS, they should do certain projects in a small groups, like teaching to the unprivileged kids, go to a particular village and teach them and see at the initial stage, what is their knowledge, and after 1 month, what are the knowledge that kids have. So they can compare and contrast, and they can feel proud that because of their contribution, because of their special involvement, the kids have learned something. So they feel proud of themselves. Similarly, help villagers to understand benefit of drinking the purified water and health system, so on and so forth. And also go to a particular place, tell them certain section of people, those who do not understand the COVID-19 diseases and what are the precautions they need to take it, so on and so forth. So therefore, these are the tasks the students should do it, and there should be registered to record it so that they'll be able to get this 5 credits or 10 credits out of the total credits of a particular program. In this way, students will involve themselves in the societal progress and growth. So therefore, over here, I will say that students also to be motivated, to be encouraged to plant certain sapling inside the campus and maintain the garden so that they will feel good to stay in the campus. They can create a positive environment to study in the campus. Students also to be motivated to make this campus neat and clean, mostly Saturday, Sunday. People should come together and to do that because this is your campus and it will be memorable for the future. And further, I would say that if some students have a brilliant ideas to help the university or institution to grow, they are allowed to share these ideas with the authorities, and then authorities need to discuss, and further, if it will be considered, can be implemented, it can be implemented. So students should feel free. Students are to be motivated to go to the authorities and meet them and tell their ideas, what are the best they are thinking of for this institutional growth. So further, I would say students are to be allowed to participate both in academic and administrative committee, and they will be able to take many decisions. If students will be participating in academic and administrative committee, then there won't be any such situation will arise where authorities need to declare it as a sign day or holiday, so on and so forth. So therefore, students should play an active role while studying in the higher education institutions. Now, some of the ideas that I'm proposing over here with regard to recruitment. Now, I find that most of these passed out students, even though they have knowledge, skills, intelligence, and particular percentage of mark, they're eligible for a particular job. For some of the reasons, they miss the information and the last date of submission of the applications. And therefore, they have to look for this next round of advertisement. So over here, I would say that all this advertisement, whether academic or non-academic, are scattered. A particular university advertised and other state people may not be knowing it. So competition is very less. And therefore, the less qualified people are entering into this academic or any other job sector. So what I propose over here, that all sorts of academic and non-academic jobs posting shall be available in one web portal. And that web portal, the center shall receive. Center means any places, any city or any places, the center can think like an UGC or AST. Similarly, a job center, where the center will be having control over there, and there will be, say, many academic administrators, even some of these IS officers, administrators, some clerks, everything will be there, like an UGC, like an AICT. The similar kind of pattern and responsibility they should take. So center shall receive all the job posting. Center means not talking about the Delhi, the government. I'm saying the headquarter should receive all the job posting and put them into 5 to 6 categories. So students should check which sector they are interested in, and accordingly they can see how many availability and where they can apply, what is the eligibility criteria, so on and so forth. So this would help the eligible students not to miss any job information and the last date of submission of applications. Here I have given some examples. You can add on to that. I would say that you put one category called academic. There you can say higher education jobs. Then you divide into 2, say teaching and non-teaching. Those are interested for non-teaching, they'll be checking. every day, whether the advertisement is coming or not. There are various IIT, NITs, universities, both state and central, research institutions, colleges, n number of things. So therefore, those are interested for teaching based on the eligibility, they will be preparing for it and they will be applying for it. Similarly, non-teaching. Now you can have higher education one side, then primary education on other side, where you can have teaching and administrative jobs. So those are looking for entering into primary education sector or the teaching sector, they will be browsing it, and if they'll find is relevant, they should apply for it. Then you know to think that which paper it is advertised, whether this paper or that paper, which website it is advertised, whether this or that, all sort of confusion can be eradicated, and they should be having a very free mind to search and check every day almost to find out their eligibility and their interest to join into a job. Similarly, you can say IT and industry, where technical, non-technical, railway, banking and finance, where you have a technical, non-technical, defense service, administration service like central administration, state administration, union territory administration services. Those are planning to join as an IAS officer or a state civil service officer. They can look for the job openings and then look for this say eligibility. Those are not eligible this year also, they can aspire. What are the eligibility criteria they should fulfill, and therefore they can able to set their life goal mostly. And in addition to that, over here I said that all states and central governments should send the job details, the requirement and other job details, total vacancy, to the CEO of the job portal, the chief executive officer, who will be taking care, which is the headquarter. Now it should be regulated by the government officials, central and state. So therefore, in every state, there will be 4 or 5 places where this can be regulated. If this, if the complaint will come, then there should be a redressal system, because some students might have applied, but it is not due to network system, due to network problem, they cannot able to submit, so and so. So all the complaint redressal system shall be placed across the states, union territories, and capital of India, so that those who applied for the jobs, their aspirations to get the job can also be can also be facilitated in this way. So now further I would say that this would help, this facility, that one job portal would help the government on the one hand and passed out students on the other hand to know how many vacancies created in the beginning and how many people recruited after all the process are over and how many posts are yet to be filled. And therefore it will increase and it will encourage, it will increase the students' passion to achieve the required skills to join into the job. This information will encourage the students to set their objectives in life. Now, if you ask 100 students in the higher education institution, what is your aim of life? Perhaps 30% will be able to say so, and the rest of them, they'll be still exploring. But if they will be able to search the job portfolio and they will be knowing their skills and intelligence, and they are the best judge for their for judging their knowledge, skills, and intelligence, so they will be encouraged themselves to apply for the job and get it. So that's what their objective of life can be set from the very beginning, because they would be knowing what are the eligibility criteria to apply for a job. So it will motivate the students to enhance their skills, knowledge, intelligence to achieve the success in life. And that's the best way we can help the students to contribute something for the societal growth and progress. This will also make higher education institutions to revise the curriculum based on the societal demands and job markets. If the job markets is twisted, they require certain kind of knowledge, skills which are not to be earned if students will do the program that we are offering as present. Then higher education institutions, by thinking the eligibility criteria and the required skills and intelligence, can also change the program, can also add the new courses into the program. So therefore, this should benefit the students directly and also society indirectly. So therefore, I would say this system would help the higher education institution would revise the curriculum at timely basis. Now, further, the students, higher education institutions, and the society, these three you can say three components. The society is one component, higher education institution another component, and students on the third component. Together, they will be helping the institution. They'll be helping the nation's economic growth and societal progress. That's such a beautiful thing that you can think of. And all these things could be possible because of the inclusive education and quality assurance in the higher education system. And therefore, the last point But not the least, I must share with you that this kind of one web portal that is meant for job for each and everyone. So this should bring a positive environment in the academic arena and hope in students for their success in their life. So therefore, in everywhere you can feel this positive vibe, and this should possible because of this inclusive education, which is clearly mentioned in all the commission report, including the National Education Policy 2020. So therefore, we all should aspire to help the higher education institutions to offer the quality education, in addition to that, inclusive education to the students. Thank you. And those who have free time can go through one of my books that's titled Higher Education Professional Ethics, published by Routledge. So with this, I end my presentation here. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Professor Sethy. Now I would like to invite Dr. Vikram Jena to carry forward.
Thank you so much, sir, for your very charmful and very meaningful way of talking related to higher education and inclusive education, for a brief roadmap, including the professionals, youngsters, and particular those are in academic arena you mentioned. You rightly pointed out the knowledge society is concerned in today's modernity age of digital patronage. Inclusive education, communication, knowledge, skilling, training, and research. You focused in every aspect of this particular in your 52 minutes of your lecture. Then you focused on logic and critical thinking, one of the vital aspects from the philosophical point of view or in humanities and social sciences as well. And you rightly mentioned about interdisciplinarity, multidisciplinarity, and what is the gap between these two jargonical or grammarly word. And the last and not least, what you're talking about, the more holistic approach through your engaging ideas, self-consciousness. It's again related to the philosophy, and it's the need of the hour. And very importantly, you mentioned so many points for the youngsters. Those are engaging their ideas into academics as well and their career perspective. And finally, you talked about the national education policy, and when you started your deliberation, you rightly pointed out many commissions and many education policies as whole. Now it's the time to, this is a Mapping Mind series of invitation to global dialogue. So we have to initiate the dialogue. Sir, what is your ideas on the particular, the so-called quote unquote double, or the so-called academicians of the country? Those are working in universities as well, IITs, NITs, NISER, ISER, and in any central or state institutions. What is your ideas on them, particular the working style, the approach they will behave to the students, and also the ethics of their parameters, setting agendas for their 3P, power, position, and promotion. Please, sir.
Okay, for me, it is easy to answer because I'm not entering into this politics, because academic, I know society cannot exist without politics, but here we are talking about academics, purely academics perspective. I'll be dealing with your question. It's an interesting question. I would say that for me, it is a top-down approach always. So if the top in any of these institutions, if the authorities are professionals, things will follow professionally without any problem. Or maybe a little problem that we cannot avoid it, but that problem may not be a problem. But those who believe in bottom-top approach, perhaps there would be 1,000+ problems. Why? Because you cannot clean the systems the way you're supposed to expect in the system. So therefore, I would suggest that most of these good educational institutions, whether it is IIT, NIT, Central University, IIIT, so on and so forth, the faculty member entry as such, they have certain level of knowledge, expertise, and intelligence. Without that, they cannot enter into this the system as such, because the system is so rigid that it is not just under vacancy. It is merely because somebody's expertise matters. So I would say that in IIT, somebody should have a minimum three publications in the Scopus Index journal, peer-reviewed journal. Addition to that, 3 years of post-PhD of experience. then only he or she would be eligible, let's say, to apply for a post. To get it or not, that's a different thing. Why? Because the standard they set is a little tough. Similarly, in IIT, you don't find a system called promotion. Rather, in every time you'll find recruitment. Those are joining associate professor from assistant. It is a new recruitment. Against the advertisement, they have to apply. They have to compete with many people. And based on the knowledge, skills, academic achievement, somebody like that. Similarly, in professor. And remember, those who join as a professor, they have to spend 1 year probation to complete their 1 year probation and get certified as a complete full professor. So therefore, I would say that in all the higher education institutions, there should be a mechanism for each and every level of faculty member, what they should achieve and how they should achieve. And at the same time, both the government and the higher education institutions should support them, facilitate them so that they can achieve. And those who enter into this academic field by chance, not by choice, perhaps they need a special training, special motivation, special counseling to retain in the higher education system and contribute substantially for the students' learning and the nation's growth.
Thank you. Thank you so much, sir. And my second question for you. If you've gone through the ideas of one of the fantastic philosophers of our time, and you also one of the great Ignite mind who representing Global South anyway, and that is called Odisha. And you are from IITs when you are a student, and then you probably joined IIT Chennai as a faculty. Sir, what is your experiences when we are talking about this particular APS course? People are running behind always APS course. They need certificates. They need conferences and seminars as well regularly. Every assistant professor should be wanted to be a part of associate professor, then immediately jump to professor. And every young professor should have a very desired choice to be a part of this system, what you call it, vice chancellor, director, or any kind of positions. Sir, what is the roadmap when you talked about the inclusive education and quality assurance in higher education, a roadmap for India? I mean, when we are going to celebrate 100 years of freedom struggle, a country which belongs to numbers of marginalized, numbers of unvoiced, number of untold stories, and many more. If you, I would like to just give some example. Before 300 years ago, there is no United States of America, and even there is no Australia as well. But what we have today, we have still existing more than 3,800 years. We have a rich culture and rich past. But what we are positioning today, we are thinking for tomorrow. Your answer, sir.
I would say that in a university setup, or say in a higher education setup, that everybody has to contribute. Society, government, teachers, students, and the infrastructure. Now, if we look at only from one perspective, that teacher has to do everything, perhaps it would be an impossible phenomenon, because teachers require certain kind of facility, certain kind of motivation, certain kind of financial strength to do that. Similarly, if I only tell about students, we are not getting good students, and that's not the truth. Suppose if I say that all administrations are average or not good, that's also not true. Similarly, if I say all the people involved in this government and taking a wrong decision, that's also not true. So therefore, I would say everybody should come forward and reach to a common consensus possibly, so that we can contribute for the societal growth. What happened in the past, that we cannot bring back. But what is there in our hand at present, if you can think about it and do things properly and righteously with cardinal virtues, perhaps we can build the future that we are talking about. What you were thinking about, perhaps people might have thought, say 50 years back, 100 years back, but facilities are not there. People were not encouraged to come together. But now, since technological era, now people can connect with each other, people can reach to each other, people can communicate the message and informations with evidence and facts, so on and so forth. There is a possibility that motivations to be escalated to a different height, so that everybody should come together and we can try to achieve the quality education in the higher education institutions. Now look at this developed country. Their percentage of say money they are getting per year to spend in the higher education institution is more. Therefore, they have a good infrastructure, good faculty. Now you tell me, if a faculty doesn't get a good money, he or she can go to a company and can get a good job. I'm talking about, say, applied science, mostly engineers, medical professionals, so on and so forth. Now, how much a doctor is getting in the state government? And if he or she is practicing in the private, if he or she has certain skills and knowledge, perhaps he will be earning more and more. It's based on the knowledge and skill. So therefore, government should think positively. Similarly, when government is thinking for us as a teacher, we should also think for the government. In return, what we should give to the society. Similarly, students should not join in a program just for a certificate. They should be self-motivated to do things, even though we are helping them to do things. Similarly, the society should not just say blame somebody or someone. Society should rather help in encouraging the students on the other hand, so faculty members on the other hand, and government on the other hand, and therefore everybody should come together to achieve the objectives of our nations. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. Sir, which add to your answer, if you listen once, Professor Mehta, one of the very best minds of here, he was probably the finest mind and vice chancellor of Oro University of Gujarat. He is speaking on IIM Ahmedabad about 2600 years of Indian universities. Sir, you rightly mentioned about institutions and universities. Perhaps we have the first country in the interplanetary perspective. The university is the model given to the society, that is called Nalanda, Takshashila, and Vikramshila, back to back. Then what wrong with us? Why we should always pull our ideas to running strategy of the linkage between the institution and the laboratory, what you call it, society, about Harvard, Cambridge, Oxford, MIT, and why? What wrong with in our ideas to spell it out, or to proper pronouns, or to hybrid language of holistic approach related to the global arena? What missing in our ideas? What missing we have? What running sort of informations we have? Your answer, sir.
Yeah, I would say that in the past, many students studied in Nalanda University, Takshashila, so on and so forth. Those days, Sanskrit was the language, Pali was the language, and Buddhism came into the existence, and everywhere people were preaching the Buddhist philosophy, so on and so forth. Now the question arises that when things are changing slowly, as per the global demands, market demands, societal demands, the same situation will not prevail for a long time. Now, when people are not really ready to fall into the change, or not really accepting the change, then this kind of situation may occur. Therefore, I would say that if anyone wants to change, he or she should be part of the change. If somebody will be outside of this, the system, and can think that system can change, it is difficult to achieve so. But if somebody is a part of that system and can think of changing the system, I'm sure in some level the system can change. But then that person requires certain knowledge and skill. So therefore, since we had Nalanda, Takshashila, so and so university few years back, this would have been created in a world-class university if we would be falling into the change. Because we have learned from our experience, we have learned from our ancestors, we have learned from science, we have learned from philosophy, we have learned from metaphysics that nothing is permanent. Everything is transitory. Everything is in the form of constant flux. So as the time goes, we need to accept the changes. And those who do not accept the change, they remain behind, and they cannot come into this contemporary way of thinking. And therefore, the societal progress is not visible. And any developed country that you see, depending on the change that society demands, the people demands, everything happens. And therefore, people are part of the change. So therefore, I would say that if we want to change the system, we should be a part of the system, because the system is nothing but a conglomeration of people like us. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, sir. Sir, I read some of the best minds of USA called George Billy Bress. He working on New York University. He has wrote a very fantastic book on debating and contemporary science and big history. Perhaps one of the leading citations in particular these contemporary days. When we talked about the quality assurance in higher education and a roadmap for India, what the informations we lacking related to the biotechnology? You are from IIT, so I am asking this question to you. When you are set and linkage the industry and these market linked programs without cutting edge the society, because society is the first and foremost thing in our mind, in particular doing research. But what wrong in our research system? You rightly mentioned about the system, and I am talking about the research system, the ethics of research, the politics behind the publication, and the politics behind knowledge, and also this knowledge industry, and the political economy of the knowledge. It's very invisible and indisible in particular post-COVID world. He said, if you go any sustainable development for the society, then your research is one of the highest degree of orientation for to change the society. We don't see in this particular critical time when people don't think even critically. And less or more, the biotechnological contest in the era of Mahabharata, what about the 100 sons of these Gandharis? What the delivery pattern she was, the abnormal and the particular abortion she did, and what kind of methodological aspect in that time, particular in fabrics of time, when we are talking about Mahabharata and in sitting in today's post-pandemic life world. What is your idea, sir, when you talked about interdisciplinarity and multidisciplinarity? I'm talking here about the historicity or historicism, or moreover history ability and the history about territoriality. What your assumptions and what your hypothesis related to fill the gaps between the ancient to modern world, or even the contemporary challenge to mapping the ancient world? Your answer, sir.
I believe we should learn from our past, but we should not recollect the bad past. The reason behind, if we learn from the past, those are good, those are best. Those are the resources, repository knowledge for us that would help us to build the present, and therefore it will take care of the future. But if something bad happened in the past, something was not good, we should not recall it. We should not repent it for a long time. We should not sit on the grip. The reason behind that, if we do so, then this negative attitude will really kill the positive vibe that lies in us. So therefore, I would say that there is a mapping, not one-to-one, rather from ancient to the modern time. But the mapping should be examined critically, should be evaluated critically, and we would see that which sector should be integrating in which sector. It should not be each and everything would be one-to-one mapping. Now, with regard to the higher education system, and there's a say linkage between one end to the another end, I would say that interdisciplinary research as such, that is a very unique phenomenon. When I say that unique phenomena, I mean a person should have knowledge in both the sides. Of course, there are certain common factors that through that thread only one can connect. Not like randomly something having in physics and something having in philosophy can be connected. But something having in cosmology and philosophy and cosmology and physics can be connected. Similarly, something is having, say, consciousness or mind studies in philosophy, cognitive science, and computer science engineering, that can be connected. So interdisciplinary research are unique in as such that a person should have exhaustive knowledge in both the sides and have command, and therefore can able to see the connection path, and that would help to develop the creative mind. But if somebody just studied philosophy, randomly some courses, that would not encourage that students to develop the creative thought, because the other perspective may not be known. So therefore, in foreign university, mostly you'll find that after certain core courses, students are allowed to do many elective courses of their choice. So in some cases, they do minor courses. In some cases, they do elective courses. The elective courses are those courses nobody is forcing them to do, rather they're picking up from the basket, and therefore they're setting their life standards. And therefore, in abroad and developed countries, you'll find that, let's say history is a department. Now there is a sub-department called history and ICT, or there is a history and science. It will be not just ancient history, modern history, or medieval history. So it will be history and ICT, history and philosophy, history and technology. What it means, there is integrations, there is a new idea. And these guys could be able to do the research project nicely with reference to contemporary elements. That doesn't necessarily mean that those are working on ancient or medieval or modern history, they cannot do. They'll be doing basic things, what they have expertise. But the interdisciplinary is such, it will help them, the society, to progress and move. And therefore nowadays, whenever you're applying for, say, any of this research funding agency, they are asking for interdisciplinary research must. Not the pure research that you will do as a fundamental research or something within your subject, which has already been done by many people in the past. So therefore, I would say, let us encourage students, parents to do the interdisciplinary study, to enroll into the multidisciplinary program, and that would help. And in say, national education policy that will find 2020, it says that multidisciplinary research is one of the important factors for this inclusive education. Because if you remember that they said that there is no such +2, that first year and second year, that is divided. That one part was given, say 11th standard was given to along with 8, 9, 10, and 11. That's a 4 years. So now then this that +2 that you, me, and others, we did it in our contemporary times, that they moved to this +3. So therefore, that's a 4 years program. So why? Because there should not be any exam fear, that after 10, there will be +2 exam fear for after 2 years something. So exam fear should not be there, because every day there is an exam. There is a self-assessment learning. So with this, in the long run, if you see that there is a progress, there is a change. I believe if a teacher can really help to communicate an idea and penetrate that idea in students' mind. So even out of 60 students in a class, if 10 students understand it correctly and they're using in their life. So 10, when each student is meeting 100 people in their life and they're communicating the same information, and each student can able to convince 10. So therefore, a teacher can able to convince 100 people in the society. I repeat, one teacher can able to penetrate his or her idea in 10 students out of 60. Now, these 10 students, they can influence 100 students each one if they'll be influencing 10 people in the society. So in the long run, in a month time or 2 months time, you can see the message is moving forward and the society is changing. So therefore, the role of teacher plays a very, very vital role. So then the teacher should get updated about the findings, research findings, about the societal phenomena, about the research problems, so on and so on. So therefore, so the role of teacher is like something unique that cannot be earned by any ordinary person here and there by studying certain novels or storybooks, so on and so on. So therefore, I would say academics are really professionals because they produce many professionals. Like those are teaching in National Law College, they'll be producing the law graduates. Those are teaching in engineering institution, they'll be producing this engineering professionals. Similarly, those are teaching in medical colleges, they'll be producing medical professionals. So therefore, it is logically correct to accept that a professional can produce the other professionals. So therefore, academics should behave in a true professional sense. So with positive note, I believe that if all of us should think that we can do something for the society, I'm sure there will be change in the society. There's a progress will be the society. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, sir. Sir, you are from the best minds of the philosophy. I think I would probably ask this question to you. Sir, what wrong in particular the post-printing era, the Gutenberg's age, particular in the time of post-Masonry, what we talked about? The Eurocentric perspective, many people are talking about Socrates, Aristotle, Plato, and so on, so on. Many numbers of philosophers were there. What wrong with us in South Asian context, or particular the Asian region as context? What about Thucydides? What about Confucius? What about even our country's proud sons like Chanakya and Kautilya? Sir, why we should not teach much about these great heroes of our country? Always thinking seriously about Aristotle, Socrates, Plato, and his ideas is more driven forces behind us. And what actual philosophy means to teach all or not teach all these great philosophers' idea in terms of many universities and many institutions? Your answer, sir.
So earlier, when people will say that somebody is studying philosophy or somebody teaching philosophy, undoubtedly the listeners will understand that that person is teaching something to the religion, either Veda, Upanishads, so on and so. So philosophy means something they understand is a religion. But now you see the change. Philosophy means neuroscience. Philosophy means technology. Philosophy means cognitive science. Philosophy means philosophy of language. Earlier, the linguistic people were dealing with. Then philosophy of technology. So philosophy of electronics, philosophy of mathematics. So now you can see one subject is integrating with the other disciplinary subject. What I would say that it is not true to say that people are not teaching Chanakya or any other great personality, those contributed many more things for the societal growth and academic growth. In many universities, these things are taught to the students. But now the question arises, when you look for the employability, this can serve as just a course only. It cannot be a program as such. Because the societal demands as such, students should get a job means you should help them to earn certain skills and knowledge. Now, therefore, in humanities subject mostly, you will find that students are little finding difficulty to get into job because the job are not plenty. So, addition to that, certain other skills and knowledge they're supposed to have. And therefore, what you say, that is important, but that may be just a one course. And Chanakya contribution cannot be completed with one course. If you ask me to teach Indian philosophy in one semester, technically 4 months, and then truly it is 6 months. Technically, truly means 6 months is given, but 4 months you get it to teach to the students or interact. That's not possible. Similarly, you ask physics to complete this thermodynamics in one semester. You can complete anything, even in one lecture, 40 minutes. But now the question whether students have learned the required objective of the course or not, that plays a vital role. So therefore, the time has changed and we need to put our steps on the change itself. Then only we will be able to part of the society. But if you think from the past, not able to move to the present, then there are barricades in every sense. And therefore, societal progress would be only kind of a phenomena that is available on the air. But from practical perspective, pragmatic perspective, that would not be a possible phenomenon. So therefore, we will find that most of the cases in higher education institutions, they want autonomy. I'm not talking about academic freedom, autonomy. That means the governing body should not come forward to approve a program. They should be able to approve the program to various committees. That should be the case. In foreign countries, those institutions are autonomous. You can immediately see they will have 4 years of integrated program, 5 years of integrated program, because they have designed based on their faculty expertise and knowledge. They don't need the second agency or the government agency for its approval, so and so. Because every 5 years, the course curriculum need to be changed, modified, because students need to get updated, so and so. So with this, I believe that we all should be part of the change, because change is the only permanent phenomena that we can experience in the world affairs. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you.
Sir, this is the last question for you, because you are running short of time, I know.
Yeah.
Sir, the post 3 Idiot era in India, particular, I think you must watch that cinema of American and Raju Irani. These people come with very fantastic, great noble cause for the cutting edge of the society, and given through their cinema a fantastic message to all of us. Certificate is nothing. Certificate is one piece of paper to just framing it and walling it in walls, and nothing mean to say. And I mean to say it's not good at all. But at the end of the story, the cinema said, or the cinema messaging to all of us, the scientist is something different who is working on particular the skilling aspects, if I'm not wrong. And what you talked about the new education policy, the skilling is one of the most important aspect in academics. That's why these two ministries have in a single man nowadays in India who is heading. So I think I would like to need some your lights on particular in the series of contest. We are talking about the disciplinary practice. I am also totally agree with you. The disciplinary practices, particular philosophy, history, sociology, language, or humanities as per se, and political science and economics. If you ask something to the economist, he said, I am not the experts, because can historian go for your answer? And if you are asking to political science man, he is probably answer, I am not a philosophy person. You perhaps go to another person to ask. What about the rural development? What about the development agencies? What about public policy? What about public ethics? And what about the judicially perspectives? What about the social justice? Sir, who is going to answer the critical thinking of the need of the hour? When we are critically discuss on the particular aspect of roadmap for India, means you are setting an agenda for youngsters, you are setting an agenda for upcoming students, those are need to study more. And if you believe Deep's idea, he said reading means suicide in India. It's very problematic and very unfair when you are comparing the idealistic world and the practical phenomena of this country, and even more holistic what you talked rightly in your talk about the institutional developments. What I see personally, the institutionals are going to die very emerging die very soon, because they don't have any idea, they don't have any perspective. I don't want to take somebody's name. Someone is now leading one of the best law school of India. He heading the vice chancellor post, not even a single piece of academic article like you. You wrote a book for Rockledge. He was only, and he perhaps one of the vice chancellor. How to set parameters for these people, and who is watching them to criticizing and negotiating the theories of pragmatism of these ideas in terms of policies is concerned, or even after 2030 we need another policy, and even 2040 we again need for the third policy. We always looking upon these ideas of policy making, or we have to do sincere and kind belief of our societal purposes which has been fulfilled by the academician. And more even, the last not least, you rightly mentioned in your talk, sir, what missing in the activism world? We don't believe in activists, because we said they are doing nothing and they are working for the NGO IDs and NGOs funding. Because at the end of the day, they are actual advocating the real voices of the naked truth of the global society and global South societies. Your answer, sir.
I would say that it's like saying that one institution is not performing well doesn't mean that others are not doing. What I would suggest that the politics should not be integrating into selection of the academic administrators. So if that would be the case, the best administrator would be able to join with a brief note what are the plan he or she has with regard to that institution. Then one can access or one can assess, evaluate at the end whether all the objectives that were proposed achieved or not. It's a kind of 5 years project with regard to a central university authorities, or 3 years or 4 years with regard to a state university authority. It's before anybody apply there, he or she should have a background knowledge of that institution or university and the plan he or she is thinking about for the next 4 or 5 years something. Of course, there will be money matters and all these things, keeping that in mind more or less. If out of 10 objectives, if 7 or 6 are achieved, then it is certainly a contribution for the societal problem. But if somebody wants to join there as an academic administrator, but then time passes, could not able to do for various reasons, then of course there is no movement. Movement is not, or progress is not visible. So therefore they would say that the appointment, because that's a temporary appointment for 5 years, kind of 5 years with regard to central university, state university, in some cases it is 3, some cases 4, in other IIT and IIM it's a 5 years, so on and so forth. So one has to have a vision and mission for 5 years instead of putting for 10 years, which is a long years. nobody can think of what to achieve, what not to achieve. Because over here, within a small boundary, within a small setup, one is to achieve things. Like imagine in a 5 village consists of a particular, say, panchayat. Now, if 3 villages are doing good, even two villages are ideal, after some time they'll start doing good because they will be trying to emulate from others. So therefore, the village panchayat or the sarpanch need not to do anything. Since 3 villages have progressed on their own because of this individual contribution, the 2 other villages, those are behind, they can also progress on their own, and after some time they will parallel that. So therefore, the panchayat will be like self-dependent, like they do not depend on the others. They are independent in a sense that they will be able to produce each and everything what they are consuming, and they will be having a weak feeling with each other. Similarly, this is with regard to the academic world and higher education institutions. You find out the right person, and if the neighbor is not doing it, after some time they will feel themselves inferior and they will do it. And this is how one can do it. But if one is forcing others to do it, perhaps in this age and this system, this is not possible. Nothing is possible with force, because we all are educated and civilized persons. It is only through reasoning, convincing, motivations, and encouragement. I believe it. If you force, somebody may do it for some time. After that, the zeal will not be there. The self-motivation will not be there. So therefore, to me, everybody should come forward to think about the societal progress, whatever knowledge and skill they have. So a carpenter can also contribute for the societal progress, an ironsmith, a student, a teacher, a flower vendor, everybody and anybody for that. Only thing that the progressive thought, positive thought should penetrate in our mind, and we should desist from the negative thought. Then only a positive and vibrant environment we can create in us to think something positive, to do something positive.
Thank you. Thank you so much, sir. Before I would like to invite formal vote of thanks. It's really wonderful, sir, interacting with you 92 minutes as of now. And I would like to congratulate and thank you to accept our invitation and participate in Mapping Mind series of invitation to global dialogue. And really thank you so much, and looking forward for future engagement also. And good night from my side, and very good day for USA. Those are watching us in YouTube and Facebook Live. Thank you so much for viewing your times. Thank you. Thank you. Good night, sir.
Good night. Good night.
Thank you so much, Dr. Jena. And thank you so much, Professor Sethy, for a very insightful deliberation. I'd like to thank everyone to help me to putting this conference together. First of all, my big thanks to our speaker, Professor Sethy. Thank you very much for your contributions and time for World Human Sciences and Management Conference. You rightly mentioned the several aspects of higher education, and very explicitly you mentioned your research and answer all the questions of Dr. Jena. Thank you so much for being with us. I have to acknowledge the institutional contributions, here in particular, the Indian Institute of Management, Sambalpur, Central University of Odisha, and Ravenshaw University. My special thanks to our patrons, Professor Dr. Sanjay Kumar Naik, Professor Sarat Kumar Palita, and Professor Mahadev Jaiswal, and our conveners, Professor Chandi Prasad Nanda and Chaldat Panigraiji. Special mentions to Dr. Vikram Kesari Jena, Director, Center for ADIVASI Research and Development, and our entire team for organizing these wonderful intellectual discourses. Professor Srinivas Luenes, Professor Sudarshan Mishra, Professor B.C. Das, Professor Loknath Mishra, Professor Sarat Kumar Raut, Shubham Das, Nupur Patnaik, Dr. Priti Sriranjan, Dr. Samuel Lima, Dr. Kamal Prasad Mohanty, Dr. Neha Sharma, Dr. Shravan Bag, Dr. Neena Das, and San Kashyap for their effort to organizing this conference. And thank you so much, all the participants and audiences from Facebook and YouTube Live. and who are watching us after the meeting. Thank you so much. And thank you, Professor Sethy, for being with us.
Thank you and bye-bye.
Meeting is gone.